Okay, boys and girls. We're going to bias this amp because I just want to get it done. I do have the speaker in it. It will squawk when we do this a little bit. We need to get the voltage from cathode, which is pin 8, to plate, which is pin 3. 461 volts. Okay. It should be the same on all 4 tubes. I have checked them, and I believe it is the same. Probably backwards here. 461, so that's fine. Now on this earth amp they installed a 1 ohm resistor to ground. So there are 1 ohm resistors to ground. Each of these services 2 of our tubes. So what we will do is we will be measuring the voltage drop across these resistors, and that will tell us what the milliamps are right here. So I have 0.07. Okay? And on this one we have 0.07. So that's pretty cold, actually. I will get the appropriate value by punching it into the bias calculator to see what we should have. Okay, so according to the bias calculation tool, we should see between 39 to 45 milliamps per tube. And of course each of these resistors is for 2 tubes, so whatever that value is we need to double it. So we want to go a little bit warmer, and the problem is reaching this be damned bias pot from here. So I'm going to try to bump that up a little bit with the help of a pair of pliers. Okay, with a little tweak on that, we are up to 0.1. Okay, putting this in the millivolts range, I'm seeing 110 millivolts, which would be 110 milliamps. It's too much. Too much. We want to be at about 85-ish. Okay, so on this side I see 80, if I can actually hold my probe steady so they settle down. And on this one I have 85. So that should be just fine. Shut up. This little connector here is a little funky. Anyway, as I was saying, and let's double check now that we've fidgeted with our bias. Let's check our cathode to plate voltage again. It's dropped just a little bit from 461. Nope, it's still at 460, 461. So we'll let this cook for a little while and make sure it's still happy after it runs for a spell. Let's walk over to the computer. Okay, so we're looking at a tube bias calculator online. This is at robrobinet.com. We have chosen our 6L6GC 30 watt plate dissipation. Enter your plate to cathode voltage, and we put in 461, which I think that's all what we agreed we had. And the tube's max dissipation is 30 watts, which is 100%. So DC milliamps for an A-B fixed bias amplifier. 50% a cool bias would be 32.5, so we need to double that. That would be about 65. 60% average would be, well, 39, so we'll say 40, so that'd be about 80. 80 is average. And then the maximum safe area would be 45.6. So that would be what, 91? So we are right at between 80 and 85 in here, so we're at about 65% dissipation for a Class AB fixed. That should be just fine. You could say that these tubes have a brilliant glow. The computer monitor is messing up my mojo. Better go turn that off. So now we're in complete darkness, and all I see is filament glow. If I saw a red spot on any of those plates, then I would know we had a mess up. Yes, this is freehand camera, and it's a little bouncy, but I like the glow of those tubes. They look really cool. Really cool looking. Well, good evening, party people. This is, we're going to go back and finish working on the earth amp here, but now that I got the heads cabinet cleaned up, I decided to put it back in there, and I still have to fix the back so I can put the back screen on. But I figured I would test it. And so far, really good news. Number one, I had it turned on, and I couldn't tell it was turned on because I couldn't hear any hum or hiss or anything. This is one quiet amp until you turn the volume up, and then it wants to kill you. I think this is supposed to be 100 watts. It's a lot. I ended up having to plug into input 2, which is the lower gain input, and essentially at volume level 1 and 2 it's mild, when you hit 3 it's loud, and when you hit 4 and 5 it is crunching up. The reverb is very surf-tastic, and we're playing it through a Fender Bassman 215 cab. Yeah, I know that's not the right cab. Its real cab is getting fixed. I'm still working on it. But if you would like a 2x15 Fender Bassman cab with original Oxford speakers, that's for sale too. I'll make you a great deal. But yeah, good report. The earth is feeling good. So now I am less angry about the amount of work I've had to put into this cabinet fixing it up because of what Dum Dum did to it. I think we will finish fixing this up. We'll replace the messed up upholstery buttons and really try to make this thing look nice. Okay, hello boys and girls, and those who haven't decided yet. We are back here. Oh, it's about 2 weeks since we started the Earth Amp project. This is an Earth G-2000 super guitar. I finally got to the cabinet and I got some other stuff done. Those are the original Eminence speakers. The lower speaker has an alternate dust cap. You can see the dust cap on the top speaker is larger and reflects the light a little better, but that's just because the light's better up there. But this is a little smaller dust cap, but it does cover the voice coil, and so it's close enough for jazz considering it's behind Gorilla Cloth. I did look to see if I could find an original style dust cap, and I couldn't. So yeah. Anyway, our amp is cleaned up. The tubes are in it. It's biased. It works. And the cabinet, I fixed the hole in the bottom that Bubba put in there. We got the cosmetics of it done. The missing or messed up buttons on the top have been replaced. The new buttons are slightly bigger than the old buttons. Just because that was what was available, but not by much. Here's some original buttons over here, and the missing buttons on the cabinet were replaced by a few of the buttons that we were able to take off of the top. The missing speaker plate on the back here has been manufactured. Let's see if we can see that. I made that. The only things remaining is there is, for our tubes here, there is a metal cover, and we need to get that reattached, and I have to make the little place to screw it down because the original one was all jacked. So we need to reattach that, and then I would like to try to reproduce a logo for this, and if we can do that, then the amp will be ready for sale. Also, I did get an aftermarket foot switch for it. It is all black, but it resembles the style of a, I suppose that would be a Fender style, if you had to pin it to another manufacturer. So at this point, all functions of the amp are good to go. We give a little sound check, and then hopefully within the next week here you will see this up for sale on Reverb. This was a tedious project. I did it over about a 2.5 week period of time. We had to buy things for cosmetics and use some miscellaneous parts we had around the shop, and buy tubes and buy capacitors, and what an adventure. But we'll give it a sound check and see what we think. Okay, so we've got our earth here. We're on the vibrato channel, which of course can do the tremolo. They decided that Fender was right in volume change and guitar signal is a vibrato, which it's not. I'll put in the reverb. This is a very strong reverb, so I have it on about 3. And we'll turn it up to 5, and then we're probably approaching surf level. Yeah. Yeah, so reverb is intense, and we'll turn that back down to about where we had it. And I think on most of these speed pots, that's traditionally they used a reverse logarithmic pot, and I can see why, because the speed is very slow here, and it really takes till about 6 or 7 before it ramps up, and I feel like at 8 you're at a medium speed, and at 10 you're at the fastest. So let's listen to it at the fastest. Okay. Let me just make it a little louder so that they can hear it really easily. And let's turn the intensity up to the moon. And see, that's just 8 to 10, and then we can go all the way down to the slowest, which is pretty slow, right? So we'll back the intensity off and still gentle, and then probably right about there is where the intensity would kick in, right? But yeah, I've got it working good. I like it. It's really cool, and when you jam it up to maybe 4 or 5, by that point with a guitar with strong output, you're already in distortion territory, and it sounds really, aggressive and loud and whatever. So this can be loud and pretty, or loud and mean, or kind of whatever you want to do with it. Much like a twin reverb, or possibly a what would the right term? What was it? Dual Showman. Dual Showman was the amp that this was arguably, or said to be, very similar to. Like, this was modeled after a Dual Showman, and those type of clean tube amps are a great pedal platform. So you can get a lot of different, whatever you want out of it. But I like it anyway, so let's just put our reverb back on one more time. And that's probably too loud for the camera, and we're only on 3 on the volume level. Again, the pot here, which is an audio pot, these are, you know, they're fine, they're correct, but with an amp with this much power, you almost wish they had some sort of version of a logarithmic pot that could go further and ramp up the volume gradually, because it goes from like too soft to too loud very, very quickly, all within the span of 2 to 3. That's kind of your happy point for happy clean zone. But other amps that I've designed, worked with, when they're 100-watt tube amps, they just do that. And I don't know if there's a good way around it. I'm sure right now the comment section is going to fill up with fixes on how to do that and modify it, but my point with an amp like this, because they're not common, I am not an electrical engineer and I don't claim to be. I'm a repair technician, and I really want this to sound and work like it did when it left the factory, and I think we have accomplished that, and we've got it looking pretty darn good. We're going to try to reproduce the logo for the cabinet as close as I can. It should be stuck right there between the two speakers in the middle there. I'm going to try to make an approximate logo that looks right for it. Put the guard on the back for the tubes and call it a win. Alright, thanks for watching, and if you really think this amp is awesome, you can come buy it in Reverb. Buy it on the Reverb store in about a week or two, I suppose.